Inside the nose of a guided weapon, something alive was waiting. Not a pilot, not a computer. 3 pigeons. This was not a joke, and it was not science fiction. It was a real wartime plan to build a living guidance system. The birds were trained to track a target and peck at it. Those pecks could help steer a weapon through the sky. The disturbing part was that it almost worked. To understand why this happened, you have to think like a war planner. Hitting a moving target from far away was brutally difficult. A ship could change direction long before impact. Electronics were still limited, heavy, and unreliable. Military planners wanted something that could keep tracking the target. Something compact, responsive, and accurate. One scientist believed the answer already existed. Not inside a machine, but inside the mind of a bird. Dr. Vance was a behavioral psychologist. He believed behavior could be shaped with extraordinary precision. Reward the right action, and the action becomes reliable. This was not magic. It was conditioning. Inside the nose of the weapon, he knew pigeons could focus longer than most people expected, and he knew they could keep responding under pressure. So he proposed something almost impossible to believe.
Put pigeons inside the weapon.
Show them an image of the target. Train them to peck whenever the target drifted away from center. Turn those pecks into steering commands. In modern terms, the bird became part of the guidance system. He believed it was a practical answer to a wartime problem. In tests, the bird's pecking could be translated into steering corrections. They gave him a chance to prove it. And one of the strangest weapons projects of the war began. The design used 3 pigeons, not 1. That created redundancy and reduced the chance of failure. Even the absurdity was engineered carefully. A lens at the front captured the scene ahead. The image appeared on screens inside the nose. If the target stayed centered, the birds pecked the middle. If the target drifted, they pecked toward the drift. Those pecks created corrective signals. The weapon could then turn back toward the target. In theory, the birds kept the target where it belonged. In practice, the concept was shockingly elegant. The pigeon did not need to understand war. It only needed to follow its training. The animal became a biological pattern recognition system. Long before digital image recognition, the bird performed the task. Crude by modern standards, clever by wartime standards. A bird in a box had become a military instrument. Everything depended on training. That was Skinner's real battlefield. Training began with simple shapes and rewards. Then the images became more complex. The birds learned to attack the image with their beaks. Food reinforced the correct response again and again. Skinner shaped their attention until it became automatic. Then the birds were tested under distraction. Noise, movement, and vibration were all part of the test. The military wanted to know whether the behavior would hold. Remarkably, it often did. The pigeons stayed focused when many expected panic. Despite promising test results, military officials remained, and the tests gave him evidence, not just theory. Engineers built prototype guidance noses around the idea. Each pigeon had its own viewing and pecking station. Their responses could be combined to maintain course.
This was not a metaphor. It was a working mechanism.
The birds were connected directly to the logic of the device.
Every peck carried a steering consequence. Some observers were forced to take the idea seriously, because against expectation, the basic principle worked.
A pigeon could identify the target and keep reacting to it. That meant the device could keep chasing the right image.
Under laboratory conditions, the system looked disturbingly viable.
The impossible had become plausible.
But wartime projects live or die by more than performance.
They also live or die by confidence.
Some officials simply could not trust a bird-guided weapon. No matter how well the tests went, the concept sounded ridiculous.
The project fought technical limits and human disbelief.
Other guidance technologies were advancing quickly. Electronics looked more modern, more scalable, and easier to defend. Project Pigeon began to look like a curiosity from another future. Funding slowed. Interest faded. The project was canceled before deployment. No pigeon-guided weapon ever entered combat. The strangest part of the story ended before the war did. But the idea did not disappear forever. After the war, the concept returned under a new name.
Project Orcon. Organic control.
The logic remained the same. Use a living creature as a tracking device.
But electronics were becoming too capable to ignore.
The era of biological guidance was closing.
Orcon was cancelled too, and the birds were retired from war.
That should have left Project Pigeon as a historical footnote. Instead, it became a window into wartime desperation.
When technology was uncertain, planners looked everywhere for an advantage.
Even inside the nervous system of a bird.
Project Pigeon sounds absurd because it was absurd.
But absurd ideas can still reveal how far war is willing to go.
And pigeons were not the last animals drawn into classified experiments.
Years later, American intelligence would attempt an experiment even stranger than this one.